Hi folks, this is Karim from Untitled Chapter. We will continue our lab, the Red Alert Lab. This is the video number 90. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. We have discussed a topic of securing Windows 11 master image. We have created this image before, and this image contains a lot of open source, much needed programs, and some tips and tricks and tweaks to modify and enhance the performance of Windows 11. And we have done a lot of things actually in this Windows 11 master image that will be our golden image that will be applied to all of our PCs in the future if you are planning to apply Windows 11 as the future operating system for your PCs. Anyway, we have taken this image and we try to secure it based on the recommendations of the Department of Defense. So basically the Department of Defense recommendations concerning securing Windows 11 is the same as Windows 10. They have the same structure and the same recommendations, only some few new items or recommendations are added. So I didn't discuss the documentation, but I have implemented directly to the Windows 11 master image. So our previous video, we have a Windows 11 master image and we have applied the recommendations of the Department of Defense on it directly to secure it using the SCAP program and the STIG program, and we have imported the group policy provided by the Department of Defense to secure the Windows 11. Okay, so we have used this group policy and import it using the LGPO program, or the local group policy object tool, to import it to our Windows 11 master image. So the recommendations basically of the Department of Defense, some of them can be applied using the group policies, and some are theoretical ideas, and some are actions to be taken. Okay, so we have discussed all of this in the previous video. We have secured our Windows 11 and through the group policy provided by the Department of Defense, and we have created reports telling us what is the status of or the security status of this Windows 11 master image according to the recommendations of the Department of Defense. How much of these recommendations are applied, if there are any recommendations not applied, using the SCAP and the STIG viewer. Today we'll discuss a very important topic. Another organization, so the Department of Defense of the United States is an organization that provides a lot of security measures and security recommendations, technical guides to secure most of our operating systems and most of our applications. And I think it's non-profitable organization. Anyway, there is another very famous and important organization which is called CIS, or Cyber Internet Security. This is a non-profitable, I think, organization that issues also technical guides to secure a lot of operating systems and applications. Okay, I have discussed this before in some videos, but from this website you can download recommendations to secure for example Windows 10, Windows 11, something like this, benchmarks. So you can just here, what you need to do to download a PDF for securing one of the, for example, your operating systems or products. You just tell him to you have to sign in with an account and to download the benchmark or download the PDF. Okay, so this is a very important website. You can use it side by side with the Department of Defense recommendations to secure your network. So one of the good things these websites provide, it is something called CIS Control Measures version 8. What is this CIS Control Measures version 8? Let me show you all a little bit of an explanation about it. So it is called CIS Critical Security Controls. These are pressurized set of safeguards or steps to mitigate or to protect yourself against most cyber attacks on systems and networks. So they are a guide, or they are some logical steps or some plan or controls or steps, you can say that, or some points that you should use in your network to protect yourself against most cyber attacks. And by the way, most of us now have a really big concern concerning the security and the cyber attacks on our network. So this is a very important topic, and this organization talks about how we can secure ourselves against cyber attacks. So this is one of the things we will discuss in this series of videos. There is a PDF. This PDF, it's called CIS Security Controls version 8. This is the PDF. Okay, you can download it from the CIS website, and we will discuss it one by one. So let's begin working with this recommendations and begin first of all about something. What is the CIS security controls? It started as a simple grassroots activity to identify the most common and important real-world cyber attacks that affect enterprise every day, translate that knowledge and experience into positive constructive actions for defenders, and then share it with a wider audience. So these are a couple of steps to secure your network, and it is shared between audience or a wider audience. The original goal was modest: to help people at enterprise focus their attention and get started on the most important steps to defend themselves from the attacks or cyber attacks that really mattered. Led the Center for Internet Security, the CIS controls have matured into an international community of volunteers, individuals, and institutions that. So these controls are shared and issued and published by a couple of individuals or volunteer individuals and known institutes, okay, that share insights into attacks and attackers, identify root causes, and translate that into class of defensive action or steps, create and share tools, working aids, and stories of adoption and problem solving, sharing tools to protect yourself against cyber attacks, telling stories about cyber attacks and how it was solved. This is one of the things to secure yourself or to have knowledge about cyber attacks. Map the controls to regulatory and compliance frameworks to ensure alignment and bring collective priority and focus on them. So that means in very short terms to have regulatory and compliance checklist or a couple of steps to follow. Okay, so we can protect ourselves against cyber attacks. Identify common problems and barriers, like initial assessment and implementation roadmaps, and solve them as a community. So this is a little bit of a brief about what we are talking about. So these controls, okay, can be applied to different organizations, but some of them can be applied to some companies that have a certain situation, and some need more regulatory. For example, if we have, for example, 50 steps to work with in these recommendations, some organizations may need 10 of them to be implemented, some of them may need 20, some of them may need 50. So here in this PDF or in these recommendations, he is dividing companies into some situations or some status. For example, IG1, this is the first enterprise. It is a small and or to medium sized with limited IT and cybersecurity expertise to dedicate towards protecting IT assets and personnel. So if your company is a small company, you don't have a dedicated IT personnel for cybersecurity, so this is some recommendations will be applied to you because you are in this situation. Okay, the principal concern of this enterprise is to keep the business operational, and they have a limited tolerance for downtime. So they don't here is saying that for example, they don't have an issue that their business is down because they are small enterprises, so the downtime for their systems is not a big issue. He's saying here they have limited tolerance for downtime. Okay, limited tolerance for downtime. I think he is saying that limited tolerance for downtime, this thing, I think the sensitivity of the data they are trying to protect is low and principally surrounds employee and financial information. So I think he is saying that this is for small companies. Some of these recommendations will be applied to companies categorized as this PDF called IG1. These are enterprises, small enterprises. They have limited tolerance for downtime, so you don't tolerate, or for here, for example, I didn't see this well. No, he's saying that they don't have any time for downtime. They have limited tolerance for downtime, so they should be operational 24/7. But the data in this company, it's not sensitive, so the protection is low and principally surrounds employees and financial information. So the sensitivity of the data is not that high. So some of the recommendations of this PDF can work, or you can apply a limited amount of recommendations from the CIS control PDF on this type of organizations because they don't contain sensitive data. Safeguards selected for IG1 or steps to be implemented from this PDF to this company should be implementable with limited cybersecurity expertise. So some of these recommendations will be applied in this PDF, will be applied to this type of organizations, and it doesn't need cybersecurity expertise or knowledge. You can apply it as an IT which is not expert in cybersecurity if you are an IT in this organization, and aim to thwart general and non-targeted attacks. These safeguards will also typically be designed in work in conjunction with a small or home office commercial off-the-shelf hardware and software. So it's saying here, this, if you are this type of enterprise, you are a small enterprise, you don't have an IT dedicated for your cybersecurity protection, you have not sensitive data in your environment. Okay, so if you see one of the recommendations and this green or this symbol IG1 is beside it, then this is the one for you. So some recommendations in this PDF cannot be applied to your enterprise because for example, these are applied to large organizations with sensitive data. We will see that when we come to the recommendations. We will see that every recommendation will have a symbol beside it. It's for IG1 enterprises, for or IG1 companies, IG2 companies, and so on. So this is the first type. So you need to define which enterprise are you. Are you a small enterprise? Are you a large enterprise? Are you a medium enterprise? What about the sensitivity of your data? What about the personnel in your IT environment? Are they cybersecurity experts? Okay, so this is one of the things. So we have company IG1. So before applying the PDF, you need to define what type of enterprise are you. So if you are this enterprise, then you are IG1 company. Let's go to the second one, IG2. Here, this is another type of companies. This is enterprises employs individuals responsible for managing and protected IT infrastructure. So there is a dedicated personnel for security in these type of organizations. These enterprises support multiple departments with differing risk profiles based on job function and mission. So in this type of organizations, we have a lot of departments, which is different than IG1 companies. Maybe IG1 companies are a small company which doesn't have a lot of departments. This type of or even medium, if it is a medium enterprise, doesn't have a lot of departments. This seems to be a large enterprise that has multiple departments which do different jobs or do different functions, and upon these jobs and functions their importance appear. So for example, you have IT department, you have finance department, you have HR department, you have a lot of departments. Every department, its importance differs, or it depends upon how much important this department to the company. So for example, in this type of enterprises, the IT department have a large importance. Okay, so here saying with differing risk profiles, and the risk of losing data from this department should be high anyway. So saying small enterprise units maybe have regulatory compliance burdens. Okay, so maybe have some regulations. IG2 enterprises often store and process sensitive client or enterprise information and can withstand short interruption of service. A major concern is the loss of public confidence if a breach occurs. So he's saying here that this type of enterprises have sensitive data, okay, stored within its premises, and it can withstand, so IG1 cannot withstand interruptions of service or downtime. This type of enterprises have measures and steps that can make it withstand interruption or downtime of service. A major concern of this type of enterprises is to lose public confidence if a breach occurs. For example, maybe if you are a financial company, a stock market company, something like this that deals with the public and have sensitive data of the public saved, sensitive data of the clients saved to it. So you are a major concern is the loss of public confidence if a breach occurs. Okay, so he's saying that if you are this type of companies, then you should do some extra safeguards or extra steps. So you will include, or you will take the steps applied to IG1 companies and add additional steps which are IG2 safeguards or IT2 steps from the guide to be implemented to your company. So safeguards selected for IG2 help security teams cope with increased operational complexity. Some safeguards will depend upon enterprise grade technology and specialized experts to properly install and configure. So this is different than IG1. IG1 you don't need to be an expert, and your software and hardware doesn't need expert knowledge to operate and expert knowledge to secure. Anyway, he's saying here this is different. This is depend upon enterprise grade technology and specialized experts to properly install and configure. Anyway, so this is, here appears the difference between IG1 and IG2. Larger, so IG2 have more departments, IG2 have sensitive data, IG2 have specialized IT in protecting or in cyber attack or protecting the IT infrastructure. He's saying here that you have a specific IT personnel for protecting the IT infrastructure, not cybersecurity. Okay, we will see that IG3 have one personnel for cybersecurity. So maybe the IT in IG2 enterprises something like network security personnel or something. So he is not expert in cybersecurity attacks, because this is, I think it's a recent topic to be provided nowadays. Okay, let's go to the IG3. So we have IG1, IG2, IG3. IG3 employs security aspects that are specialized in different facts of cybersecurity. So the IG2 maybe have one personnel in one field of security, but in IG3 there is a couple of ITs in different phases of security. So you have, for example, one IT for risk management, and one IT for penetration testing, and another IT for application security. So you have a couple of IT in the field of cybersecurity. Maybe in IG2 one personnel is specialized or is expert in IP security and in a certain field in cybersecurity. Anyway, IG3 assets and data contain sensitive information or functions that are subject to regulatory and compliance oversight. An IG enterprise must address availability of service and confidentiality and integrity of sensitive data. Successful attacks can cause significant harm to the public welfare. So these kinds of enterprises cannot tolerate downtime, so you should be available all the time, and its data is very sensitive, and it could not be hacked, and successful attacks on this kind of organizations can harm the public welfare. Okay, so think something like the Department of Defense of the United States. It can be categorized as IG3 enterprises. Okay, so this is what we can talk about. So before using the guide, you should categorize yourself or see what type of enterprise are you. For example, maybe for me, if I was working at the hotel, I can put myself at IG2 kind of enterprise. So if you are a small company, maybe a small branch or something, maybe IG1 is your category. But anyway, this is the first thing to work with in this kind of this kind of recommendations, we will see that some recommendations can be applied to IG1 or IG2 or IG3. So let's go and begin working with the first recommendation, which is control number 1, inventory and control of enterprise assets. So the first thing is actively manage, inventory, track and collect all enterprise assets, end user devices, portable and mobile, network devices, non-computing Internet of Things (LOT) and servers connected to the infrastructure physically and virtually, remotely, and those within cloud environment, to accurately know the totality of assets that need to be monitored and protected within the enterprise. This will also support identifying unauthorized and unmanaged assets to remove and remediate. So he's saying here that you should be aware of all of your assets in your enterprise. These assets differ. There is a different type of assets. There is end user devices, there is portable devices, there is mobile devices, there is network devices, there is Internet of Things devices, there is servers, there is workstations. Some of them are physically, some of them are virtually, some of them are in a remote location, some of them are in a cloud environment. I will give a little bit of explanation of each one of these terms. Okay, this PDF also contains a very good glossary for every type or every term you will find in this PDF. Anyway, so we can see here that, for example, these are 5 recommendations. 2 of them only can be applied to IG1 companies. 4 will be applied to IG2 companies. IG3 should apply the 5 steps. Anyway, what is the importance of this kind of recommendation? You should track all of your assets in your enterprise, computers, servers, and so on. So, okay, what is the importance of this kind or this recommendation is specific? What is why this control is critical? He say that enterprises cannot defend what they don't know they have. Managed control of all enterprise assets also play a critical role in security monitoring, incident response, system backup and recovery. So you should know all of your assets, first of all, to secure them and to back up them, and in case to recover some of them if they are not working, or if they are corrupted or something. So this is the thing, you should have a detailed inventory about your assets or your data. Enterprise should know what data is critical to them, and proper asset management will help identify those enterprise assets that hold or manage this critical data, so the appropriate security controls can be applied. So you should identify your assets, because some of these assets contain sensitive data, so you should put more effort in controlling and securing these assets. Okay, this is one thing. And also to have a detailed inventory of your assets. This is one of the things for documenting your network and documenting your environment, to have a detailed report about your assets. This is one of the things to control your assets, to have account of your assets. Okay, external attacks are continuously scanning the internet address space of target enterprises, premises based or the cloud. Attackers are always scanning if there is enterprise assets on the cloud, for Azure for example, or on premise in some internal networks, or other things, identifying possibly unprotected assets attached to the enterprise network. So you should protect all your assets. So how I can protect all my assets if I don't know how much assets I have? So you should inventory your assets, and the assets that are no longer in your network should be removed from your list. Attackers can take advantage of new assets that are installed yet not securely configured and patched internally. This is on the cloud, or on the assets on the cloud, on Azure for example. And this is more easy for the attacker to, or for the hacker to do, because it's on the internet, or it's on the public, or it's on the internet address. Internally, unidentified assets also can be weak security configurations that can make them vulnerable to web or email based malware. So this is for attackers of on enterprise assets. What about internal assets? Some of these internal assets, if you don't know them or you don't have an inventory of them, they can contain weak security configurations, and they can be hacked by sending an email to these assets, and they can be infected by a malware or something. Okay, so we should know all of our assets. This is something we need to stress on, to make an inventory of all of our assets. Okay, additional assets that connect to the enterprise network, for example, guest network, temporary test systems, demonstration system. For example, if you have a guest network, for example, if you are in an office or you're in a company and you have guest network for your guests to connect to the internet, this guest network should be protected, and it is to be separated from your admin network or your enterprise network. Okay, this should be done also using a firewall, okay, to separate guest networks from temporary or admin networks. And this should be also, guest networks should be identified and isolated and also monitored, and you can make inventory of it actually. Okay, in order to prevent adversarial access from affecting the security of enterprise operations. Large, complex, dynamic enterprise understandably struggle with the challenge of managing. In any case, this is not something we don't need all of this. Another challenge is the portable and end user devices will periodically join a network and then disappear. This is related to mobile phones and laptop and tablets and something like this. So saying this is another challenge, because in your network some of these devices you use in your network. For example, I prefer actually in your network you don't use portable devices, but for example, if your general manager or your owner of the company have his mobile phone and he have email on it, for example, to access or to have important emails received on his mobile phone, then you should secure this mobile phone, and this mobile phone should be also updated and updated with security updates, and to be within your network, or to apply controls to secure it within your network. So your controls in your network should be applied, or your enterprise controls should be applied to this portable device. Okay, we will see that in a moment. We will have a definition of what is portable devices and how we can secure it, making the inventory current available assets very dynamic. You should have a dynamic inventory. What assets are there should be recorded, what assets are out or it should be removed. This should be a dynamic process. Cloud environments and virtual machines can be difficult to track in an asset inventory when they shut down or pause. So this is another challenge in virtual environments. As soon as the virtual machine is closed, maybe it doesn't appear in the inventory list. We will see that in a moment, or we will see how we can do this. Another benefit of complete enterprise asset management is supporting incident response. So if you have a complete inventory, you can know when an incident happens. You can identify the asset that is hacked, for example, and who it is talking to. The IP address, the MAC address, all of this info should be with you, so you can make an incident, you can make a report, and you can investigate and know the origination of network traffic from an asset to the network. So you can identify the origination of the hacker or the hacking process from the asset. You know the asset, you know the traffic coming from the asset. This will help you to identify the problem and rectify it. Okay, so this is why this control is important. So let's see how we can, what are the tools that we will use to identify or to make an inventory. I will discuss this now, but first of all we need to have some terms to be identified. First of all, what is in a cloud environment? It is a virtualized environment that provides convenient on-demand network access to a shared pool of configurable resources such as our network, computing, storage, application, and service. So it's a virtual environment. This virtual environment, it's not on premise, or it's not within your network. It is on the cloud or on the internet. So it's a virtualized environment on the internet. Okay, one of the things about virtualization environment on the cloud, something like Azure or AWS, that you have on-demand network access. So you can have some services, you can access it on demand and some services you can tell him, or you can for example, don't use it. So it's on demand. You can pay for on-demand services when you need it, and you can not use these services when you don't need it. So it's on-demand network access, and give you a pool of resources. So virtualized environment on the cloud give you a lot of resources, give you computing, so give a lot of processors you can choose from, a lot of storages, hard disks, you can choose them, a lot of services, backup services, securing services, applications. You can use Office 365. It's a virtualized environment on the cloud, so it's a pool of resources you can choose from. It is a virtualized environment, it's on the cloud, not on premise, and it gives you a lot of resources to choose from and to configure and to use. There are 5 essential characters to a cloud environment. On-demand self-service, so it's on-demand self-service. Broad network access, resource pooling, rapid elasticity. So rapid elasticity, what do we mean by rapid elasticity? That you will pay, this is one of the things also, you will pay for the services on this virtual environment. So for example, you can create 5 virtual machines on Azure, and for example, your volume of work or volume of work is less, so you don't need 5 virtual environments, you need 4. So you'll pay for 4, not pay for 5. So this is one of the things, or the good things of virtualized environment on the cloud. You will pay for what you use. Okay. As for on-premises, this is different. For on-premise, for example, you have, when you need to make a network, for example, you make a domain, for example, you need 5 servers, and we will use them. Okay. When the volume of work is less, you still have these 5 servers, so you need to use them. You cannot stop the service or stop the server. You will use it, but on demand or on the cloud, this is a completely different thing to do. You can pay only for what you use. Okay. Anyway, so this is one of the things. What is a cloud environment? Let's see other things. For example, what is an enterprise asset? What is an end user? So let's see the terms here. For example, virtual environment. What is a virtual environment? It is something simulates hardware to allow a software environment to run without the need to use a lot of actual resources. So it simulates a hardware, but through a software environment. Virtualized environments are used to make small number of resources act as many with plenty of processing. So for example, you have a machine that have a lot of processors. You have, for example, a machine that have 10 processors and have, for example, 32 gigabyte of RAMs, have a large hard disk. Okay, all of these resources are on one operating system. So you have, for example, Windows 10 install this machine, so all of these resources act for one machine. But you can use these resources in a virtual environment. So this machine can be 7 virtual machines. It's physically one machine, but this can be 7 virtual machines. You can distribute the computing resources, the hardware resources, to be 7 virtual machines. So this is what we say about acting as many. To use a few, acting as many. So it's only one machine, but it will act many, or you can divide it to many virtual machines. Okay. So he's saying there is a plenty of processing, memory, storage, and network capacity. Virtualization is a fundamental technology that allows cloud computing to work. So this virtual environment, you can make it on premises, so you can make it in your internal network using vSphere or using Hyper-V, and it's a fundamental thing to be used on Azure. So Azure is a virtual environment. AWS is a virtual environment, something like vSphere or Hyper-V, but it's on the cloud. Okay, so this is one of them. What is the physical environment? Physical environment, parts that make up network, including cables, routers, the hardware required for communication, interaction between devices on the network. Very simple and very straightforward explanation. End user devices. This is one of the things. End user devices. These are assets used among members of an enterprise during work. Off hours. So these are used when you are not in the place of your work, or not in on your work environment, outside your work environment, or any other purpose. So end user devices include mobile and portable devices, such as mobile, we all know mobile, or cell phones. Portable devices, laptops, smartphones, and tablets, as well as desktops and workstations. For the purpose of this document, end users are a subset of enterprise assets. So he's saying, sorry guys, here end user devices, it can be devices used during work. I didn't see this. During work or off hours or outside your work environment. During work, this can be desktops and workstations. So this can be defined as end user devices. So when I see end user devices, this can mean it is a workstation or a desktop or a laptop or a smartphone or a tablet. This is what we mean by end user devices. These end user devices can be portable devices, okay, or can be fixed assets like desktop or workstations. Okay, this is simple. Okay, what is a mobile end user devices? So here it will define what is a mobile and what is a portable user devices or end user devices. Mobile end devices, small enterprise issued end user devices with increased wireless capability. So it's saying they are small devices within your enterprise, okay, and they have wireless capability, such as smartphones and tablets. Mobile end user devices are a subset of portable and end user devices. So it's a part of the portable devices. So portable devices are not fixed devices. So this apply to mobile devices. So these are a part of the portable devices. So when I say portable devices, this means that it could include mobile devices or it could include laptops, something like this. So end users, again, end users can be defined as fixed and portable, okay, devices. Portable devices can be mobile devices or laptops or tablets or something. This could be, okay. So let's go and continue. So mobile user ends are a subset of portable and end user devices, including laptops, which may require external hardware for connectivity. So some laptops, maybe you need to have an external internet connection device, for example, something like a USB stick or internet USB stick or external wireless device, okay, wireless network device. For the purpose of this document, end user devices are a subset of end user devices. So this okay, end user devices are portable devices and fixed devices. So this is a part of end user devices. Anyway, portable devices, transportable, and end user devices that have capability to wirelessly connect to a network. The purpose of this document, portable end user devices can include laptops, mobile. Okay, so this is very simple to do. Again, here is the Internet of Things. Devices embedded with sensors, software, and other technology for the purpose of connecting, storing, and exchanging data with other devices and systems over the internet. So this can be your refrigerator, can be your cell phone, can be your refrigerator, your air condition, your camera. All of these are devices, okay, and these devices have sensors. So for example, your camera has a motion detector sensor, okay, or infrared sensor. Anyway, so these are devices that exchange data with systems. So for example, you may have for example your an application on your phone, so your camera can connect to and give you a feedback about what's happening in your home. So this is an application. So it's devices that have sensors and software that communicate with another devices or another software. Your camera, it is a device with a sensor, motion detector, and vision detector, for example, and it contains a software to operate the camera, and this software operates with an application or your cell phone to give you data about what's happening in your home when you are outside. Okay, so while these devices are not used for computational processes, okay, they support an enterprise ability to conduct business processes. Examples of these devices include printers. So printers are Internet of Things. Some printers can be available on the internet, so this also one thing. Smart screens, physical security sensors, industrial control systems, and information technology sensors. Okay, for this purpose, this document, non-computing Internet of Things are a subset of enterprise assets. So you can see here there's a lot of explanation, but this is very useful. We have known what is a virtual environment, what is a physical environment, what is an end user device. After doing all of these things, I will return back to the recommendation and see, or to recap what we are saying here. So we have Internet of Things. Let's go further. Now we need to go to what is network devices. Network device, electronic devices required for communication and interaction between devices on computer network. Network devices include wireless access points, firewalls, physical virtual gateways, routers, and switches. These devices consist of physical hardware as well as virtual and cloud-based devices. For the purpose of this document, network devices are a subset of enterprise assets. Electronic devices, okay, its main function is to communicate between devices on a network. So they are called network devices because they communicate with devices within a network. This can include a switch, a router, a gateway. So this is very thing to know. What is a server? A server is a device or a system that provides resources, data, services, or programs to other devices on either a local network or a wide area network. So for example, you have a file server. A file server, this is a storage server. So your storage, let's see, this is a service. You are having a server that has a large storage and you are telling the users to put their data on it. This is the function of a file server. So it's providing a service or a storage or a program so the users can access it within a network, internal network, or a wide area network. For example, your HR application. So an HR application server, it's a server that allows the HR personnel to access the HR application from any place within the network. So it's provide resources, data, services, and programs to other devices. Other devices could be workstations. Okay, so this is it. This is also a mail server. You have a server that contains emails. So this is a service. You provide email service to your workstations, internal email, for example. So this is one of the things. Network infrastructure. Network infrastructure refers to all resources of a network that make network or internet connectivity management, business operations, and communication possible. It consists of hardware and software, systems and devices, and it enables computing and communication between users, services, applications, and processes. Network infrastructure can be cloud, physical, or virtual. So infrastructure is a collection of network devices, servers, workstations, virtual environments, physical environments. So this is a structure, infrastructure. Enterprise. What is an enterprise asset? Okay, from the beginning, what is an enterprise asset? So all of these are assets within your network. Network devices is considered an enterprise asset. Servers is considered an enterprise asset. Workstations are considered an enterprise asset. What is an enterprise asset? Enterprise asset is a potential to store, or asset, enterprise asset. Asset with the potential to store or process data. For the purpose of this document, enterprise assets include end user devices, we have discussed it before, network devices, Internet of Things, servers. Okay, it could be virtual assets, virtual machines, or physical. Okay, so this is thing. Externally exposed enterprise assets refers to an enterprise asset that is a public facing and discoverable through domain naming system, resonance, and networking scanning from the public internet outside of the enterprise network. So in short, these are assets that are available on the internet. Maybe it's a web server for the company, so it's available on the internet. This is called externally exposed enterprise assets. On the opposite, internal enterprise assets, these refer to non-public facing enterprise assets. This could be your domain controller. It's not accessible from outside the internet. It only be accessible within your network internally. So this is the thing. So these are all glossary. Let's go again and see what we have discussed. We have discussed what is an enterprise asset, what is an end user device, what is a portable end user devices, what is a mobile end user devices, what is a network devices, what are the Internet of Things devices, what is a physical environment, what is a virtual environment, what is a cloud environment. Okay, what is an enterprise asset. So we have discussed all of these glossaries in these we have discussed all these glossaries concerning the first control. So we need to actively, again, we need to here to say the recommendation. The first thing is to inventory and control of enterprise assets. So you should have a complete inventory of all of your enterprise assets. Okay, so we need the tools to do this. Okay, and we need to see the steps. So there is, this control is divided to sub steps or steps. Let's see these steps and how we can do these steps using some tools. So first of all, we need to establish and maintain a detailed enterprise asset inventory. Remember here, this is for IG1 enterprises, for IG2 enterprises, for IG3 enterprises. These are applied to all of the three types of enterprises. Address unauthorized assets. So unauthorized assets, this means that these assets are no longer in the domain or in the network, or they are not still protected and not authorized to access our network. We will see explanation of this step. Okay, and then this also applies to the three companies. You utilize an active discovery tool. So this is a tool, okay, that we will use to make inventory of all of our enterprise assets. Okay, there is two type of tools, something called active discovery tool and passive access tool or asset tool. We will discuss these two or differences between these two types of tools. This is some active discovery asset tool and passive discovery asset tool. So this step only applies to IG2 enterprises and IG3. So this is not important for IG1. IG1 can make a detailed inventory of its asset. I don't think this will be applicable without using software. But for example, maybe you have scripts to do this, maybe. So you have a script, you can do this without a tool or without the script, or you have purchase orders, so you can know the assets within your environment. But this, okay, and you can, for example, have your Active Directory. Anyway, so he's saying that this can be applied to IG2 and IG3 enterprises. Then use dynamic host configuration protocol logging to update enterprise asset inventory. This can be for IG2 and IG3. The DHCP server logs all of the machines within your network that have an IP address. So this is a very good way to make an inventory. So you can go to your DHCP server and export the log or export the DHCP list of your PCs. So you can go and, for example, let me show you all how we can do this. If you go and tell him DHCP export log. So let's see here the images about this one. No, we need to export here. This is one of the things. Let's see here. Not this one. You can help to export list to here. If you can see this one, you can go to your DHCP and tell him export list. Export list, he will give you a list or export the list of PCs with their IP addresses. You can export it. This is a way to, as we said before, you can something to make an inventory. It's a quick inventory. So you can tell him to export the list. Okay, here you go, export the list. You go to HCP and export the list. It will export all of the IP addresses for the machines within your DHCP. So this is one of the things also that it's a good thing to make a quick inventory using the DHCP. Use a passive asset discovery tool. We will discuss what is a active discovery tool and what's a passive discovery access tool. So inventory and control of enterprise assets, these are the 5 steps you should do. Let's discuss them one by one. First of all, establish and maintain detailed enterprise inventory assets. Establish and maintain an accurate, detailed and up-to-date inventory of all of your enterprise assets with the potential to store and process data. We have said before, this is the definition of enterprise assets. Include end user devices, portable and mobile, we have discussed this, network devices, non-computing, Internet of Things servers. Ensure the inventory records the network address, the IP address, okay, hardware address, this is the MAC address, the machine name, the enterprise asset owner, who is the owner of this asset, the user on this asset, accounting team, IT team, the department. For example, you can enterprise asset owner may be the name of the user on this machine and which department he is in, okay, for each asset, and whether the asset has been approved to connect to the network. So any user before, so for example, if you have an HR personnel and he needs to access the HR resources or the HR application in your network, you should create for him a user on the HR application. So this should be the IT responsibility. So he is authorized to access network resources from the IT, and his computer also should join the network also and authorized to access the network based on the IT. For mobile and end user devices, MDM type tools can support this process. So for example, if your GM have a device or an iPhone that he uses, or he needs to set up his email account or his business email account on it, so you should as an IT take the iPhone and configure the email on it and secure it, okay, using a special kind of tool, something called MDM. So MDM, this is a kind of tool that is used to secure mobile devices and apply security measures on it. Okay, one of the measures, for example, that we have used in my company, that if the device iPhone was stolen, all of the data will be wiped from the device. This is done by the MDM tool. Okay, this is done by MDM tool. I think this is available in the Azure cloud, some this kind of tools. Where appropriate, the inventory assets connected to the infrastructure physically, we have discussed what the physically, virtually, remote, and those within the cloud. Additionally, it includes assets that regulatory connected to the enterprise network infrastructure. Even if they are not under control of the enterprise, review and update the inventory of all enterprise assets biannually or more frequently. Biannually, this means biannual, I think every half year. So you can make an inventory or update your inventory list every 6 months or more frequently. So you can do this every 6 months, or you can do it more frequently. Maybe let's make it quarter, so you can make it every 3 months a year. Okay, so this is one thing. This is to identify. The first step is to identify your assets. The second thing is to respond. Ensure that the process exists to address unauthorized assets on weekly basis. So you update your inventory list every 3 months, and unauthorized assets or assets that is no longer within your network or it's not authorized, you should remove them. Okay, he's saying this should be done on a weekly basis. The enterprise may choose to remove the asset from network, deny the asset from connecting remotely to the network, or quarantine the asset. So you should check for unauthorized assets every week. Okay, this can be done using DHCP. So you can export the DHCP log from the server every week and check if there is unauthorized names or unauthorized devices and remove them. This is done on a weekly basis. As for updating the whole inventory list, this can be done biannually or every quarter. Okay, utilizing an active discovery tool. Utilize an active discovery tool to identify assets connected to the enterprise network. Configure the active discovery tool to execute daily or more frequently. I think this will not be daily. This is a tool that will discover your network or inventory your whole network every day. So this is a whole there is a lot of traffic here concerning this tool. So I don't think this can be used frequently. I think you can this especially is saying here, this is especially for IG1 companies. This is not applicable. You can use it in IG2 and IG3. So remember, this type of discovery tool will make a lot of traffic, so your network should be capable for handling large network traffic. Anyway, so we'll discuss what is an active discovery tool, and I give you an example, and what is the passive discovery tool. Anyway, so we'll discuss this. Use the DHCP logging on the DHCP servers and internet IP address management tools to update the enterprise assets. Review and use logs to update enterprise assets inventory weekly or more frequently. So unauthorized assets can be identified from the DHCP log, and both will be done on a weekly basis. As for the total inventory report, it can be done on a quarter basis. Okay, and as for the discovery tools, this should be run every day. Okay, to frequently update the inventory list. Okay, but I think this should not be used frequently unless you have a good capability to handle a large network traffic. Anyway, a passive discovery tool, it is to identify assets and review and scan and update the inventory. So these two tools are used to discover assets and record them. Okay, enterprise assets. We will see the differences between what is an active discovery tool and what is let's see here, what is a discovery access tool, and what active discovery tool, and what is a passive. Active tool or active methods, as known as standard asset discovery, commonly use software that pulls devices across a network. The classic ping and response process, but they can use discovering devices that at anyway I will not I will give you here, these two can be so an active method or active discovery method, the program sends a broadcast to all of the devices, and each device will respond to this broadcast, and then he will record them. This is the active method. The passive methods, it's on the opposite. It listens to the devices. Okay, it will not send a broadcast. It will listen to the traffic in the network and see what devices are talking to each other and then record them. So this is the passive and the active. Another thing here, this is, you can read them. There is a discovery. Active discovery is identifying and categorizing assets within an organization environment. This can be done manually or through the use of automated tools. The goal of the active discovery is to create an accurate inventory of all devices and softwares within the network. Passive is the process of monitoring network traffic and system logs and identifying devices and software based on their unique signatures. So the active discovery sends a broadcast, okay, and collect the data from the broadcast. As for the passive, no, it monitors or listens to the traffic on the network and records it. So one listens and one sends. Passive discovery is often used in conjunction with active discovery to create a complete picture of an organization IT assets. So again, these are the steps, how we can, or what are the tools that we'll use to make inventory of our assets and remove the unauthorized assets. There are two tools, or let me show you all what are the tools that will be used. Okay, here a key difference between passive and active. A key difference between passive and active is the active discovery can be more destructive to normal operations, and it requires scanning devices and systems, which can impact performance. This will make a lot of network traffic. On the other hand, passive discovery does not require any particular configuration or scanning. It has minimal impact on the operation. So the active needs some configuration to be done on the client side. As for the passive, doesn't need any configuration. Another key difference is the active discovery can provide more comprehensive results, as it will identify the assets within the scope of the scan. Passive discovery, however, can only identify assets that generate some activity, so it listens to the traffic. This means that passive discovery may miss some assets that are not generating any relevant activity. So for example, maybe an asset is closed or shut down, so the passive tool will not record it or will not inventory it. Okay. Finally, active discovery is typically more expensive than passive discovery. It requires specialized tools and stuff to carry out the scans. On the other hand, passive discovery can be often carried out using existing monitoring infrastructure, and so does not require any additional investment. Anyway, the active tools or the active discovery tools, one of them is Managed Endpoint Service Desk Plus. This is a tool to discover your network. SolarWinds, so you can have these two companies, SolarWinds discovery network discovery tool and Managed Endpoint Service Desk Plus discovery tool. These are two examples of an active discovery tool. What about the passive? Let me show you all. So let me show you all the passive or the free passive tools. Let me go there and make it like this. So here we can see these are some examples. Okay, these are Spiceworks, some tools, free tools that are passive discovery tool. Okay, these are some of them, and there are some commercial tools, and there is some tools concerning Microsoft. Okay, so again we have let me go further here. So another thing, we have discussed the tools to the free tools. So by the way guys, these two tools are paid tools. Okay, so you can use paid tools for active discovery. I think there are free discovery or active discovery tools, but these are paid tools. Okay, and there is passive tools that are free. Let me see if there is free passive or free active discovery assets tool. So there is some tools, you can see them from it. Okay, so these are free tools. You can search the internet for free tools. So we have the active tools and the passive tools, and these are tools that we will use to reach our goals for identifying unauthorized assets and making an inventory of our assets. Okay, what if we don't have this kind of tools? Okay, there is a way that you can get your or to inventory your network using the Active Directory. Okay, a multi-factor authentication. Okay, if you have a multi-factor authentication system, it will log the machines, so you can make an inventory list from the Active Directory or multi-factor authentication programs or intrusion detection systems. So if you have an intrusion detection system, it will monitor your network and your PCs, so you can get a list of the monitored IPs or the monitored network or PCs, or the mobile device management. You can get an inventory of your device or mobile device management from the MDM. The MDM, it is a way or a tool used to secure the mobile devices, so it can be a tool to secure and monitor and inventory your devices, your mobile devices. And the Active Directory the same. The Active Directory includes all of the PCs on the network, so this can be a container for the PCs in your network, and it could be a tool. You can export the PCs in the Active Directory in a list, so you have a list of all of your PCs within your network or within your domain. So he's saying these are the tools you use also in addition to the active tools, SolarWinds and Managed Engine Server Disk, and the passive tools. You can use the Active Directory as an inventory tool, multi-factor authentication programs, VPN, okay, intrusion detection systems, deep packet inspection, mobile device management, and vulnerability scanning tools. For example, the SCAP. You know, we have used the SCAP of the Department of Defense. It will scan the whole network. So scanning the whole network, it will scan for security measures or security holes, and it will make an inventory of the PCs. We have seen this in the SCAP. Okay, property inventory database, purchase order tracking, so you can make an inventory based on the purchase orders from your purchase department. Local inventory list, so you will make a manual list. Other sources of data to determine which devices are connected. They are tools and methods that normalize this data to identify devices that are unique among these resources. Anyway, so there is a lot of ways to inventory your network through tools, through purchase orders, through Active Directory, through intrusion detection system, through mobile device management tools. So again, to recap what we are talking about, we are talking about the first measure is to control, the first control or the first recommendation to inventory and control of enterprise assets. How we can do this? We can do this using 5 steps. Establish and maintain enterprise asset inventory using tools. Okay, we have discussed these tools. Address unauthorized assets. The unauthorized assets or the no longer available assets or out of our network, we should remove it from our network. The tools that we'll use, we can use the DHCP to get a log. So one of the things to get the DHCP log to make an inventory. So these are the steps for the first control or the first recommendation of the CIS. The second recommendation, we will discuss this in the upcoming video, inventory and control of software assets. Okay, so these are all inventory enterprise assets are the physical devices or virtual devices, but this is an inventory of the software or the applications. So until the upcoming video, hope video is informative for you all, and thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.